Hi friends, the Ricochet anti-cheat system is getting a big update for Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 in Season 3. So I thought I'd pick out the patch notes for you and show you a couple of really interesting things coming for the Ricochet anti-cheat team, which could help reduce the number of cheaters across Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2, because we know cheating's been a big issue since the game dropped. So one of the big first things I want to talk about is the replay investigation tool. If you're familiar with FPS games, you'll know Call of Duty plus a number of other FPS games have struggled with the ability for the anti-cheat teams to be able to review footage. A lot of the times they'll get game data in the form of match statistics, but they won't necessarily have the ability to go back and review gameplay data. And obviously being able to watch a cheater and watch that gameplay live does make a big difference in being able to identify if someone is cheating or not. So this new replay investigation tool could help quite a lot. And you see here what it does. Essentially uses captured and stored match gameplay data, which will allow the team Ricochet anti-cheat personnel to essentially review live gameplay footage and previously recorded gameplay footage. And it says here they can go back and watch any completed match as part of their investigation. They're even doing a special capture for ranked gameplay, where essentially they'll be capturing and storing all match data for the highest tiers of competition. So those higher ranks you get to for ranked gameplay, you'll automatically be capturing the footage. So wherever you get a cheater, they'll always be able to go back and identify if there's a cheater from recorded gameplay. And of course, anyone that gets caught cheating, it says here, they'll be banned. But what's more interesting, particularly from a ranked perspective, is that those players will be removed from leaderboards. And I think that means all their progression will be removed as well. The next thing I want to pick out for you, coming in Season 3 for anti-cheat, is the identification and detection of third-party hardware devices, which you can see it says here. Now this is interesting because Call of Duty in recent years has had a really big issue with third-party devices. I'm talking particularly around those devices that mod your controller, which are really hard to pick up for anti-cheat systems. You know, things where they're not actually changing in-game code or anything, but they are modding the way your controller inputs into the game. Now typically in previous Call of Duty and actually other FPS game titles, this has kind of been something that's a little bit more tricky for them to detect. But now, them introducing the capability, you can see here, to detect third-party hardware devices. It applies to any device which acts as a pass-through for controllers on PC and console. So for example, if you're using a device, I think Chronos Zen is probably a good example, which can mod the way recoil works, which you see here, or even give you advantages such as allowing you to do certain movement mechanics which aren't easy to do. And all of those things will be classed as mods to the game. So if you're using Chronos Zen or one of those other inputs, I think strike packs are quite a common one. If you're using any of those, you need to be prepared to get identified and potentially start receiving warnings. Now, if you get continued improper use of these devices, it may lead to additional warnings, ask the developer of mitigations, account or feature suspensions, or even banning. So essentially now those people that are using these kind of input devices to give them an advantage, and I would say one of the biggest advantages they do get is the reduction of recoil, which can make it really easy for them to kill you compared to you if you're not getting that recoil modded input. It does say it's a new thing, it's been through development and testing. I'm not really expecting any miracles, but hopefully it should start reducing and cracking down on these players using things that were previously harder to identify. Moving on, the other thing they've got are in-game mitigations. Now this one's quite interesting. Some of these have been in effect already, and some of these are going to be newly enforced for Season 3. Let's have a look at them because they are quite interesting. Firstly, you've got cloaking, and this is the process of hiding legitimate players from cheating players. I've got a little video here which I found really interesting. So you can see here's a cheater. He's a standard player, and the cheater you could see couldn't actually see them, but the standard player can see the cheater. Again, this is a process of mitigation where they're essentially hiding legitimate players from cheating players. You've also got disarm. This is the process of removing weapons and equipment from cheaters while in the game. It's quite an interesting one. Again, you can see here there's the cheater, he's got a gun, and they've essentially removed the weapon from the cheater. The other core mitigation is damage shield. So this is the process of providing legitimate players with a protective barrier against cheaters. Really interesting. You can see there the cheater deals loads of damage in theory that would kill a player, but they give an extra damage shield to the legitimate player. Again, just reducing the incentive for cheaters to actually cheat because you don't really get as much from it. The final thing I wanted to touch on around Season 3 for anti-cheat is around the additional behavioural warnings that will now be coming into effect. So things like account boosting, you can see here game glitching or exploiting, and player griefing, these are kind of things that have been really annoying in Call of Duty. And I think these things have just added to the toxic nature of Call of Duty. Maybe it's just because the game has been around for a while, or maybe it's just the type of players that Call of Duty attracts. Whatever the reason, it's just felt like the game's got more and more toxic as it's gone along. And these kind of things are just trying to help reduce that kind of toxic behaviour in Call of Duty. Player griefing is quite a big one, to be fair. Anyway, it says players that engage in these behaviours will see in-game warnings detailing these offences. And it gives you an example here, griefing warning, your account has been reporting unsportsmanlike behaviour. Again, if you get loads of these, it says, if it persists, accounts may be subject to additional warnings and penalties, including game or feature suspensions, progression resets, and more. And that's kind of it. So that summarizes some really good changes coming. Hopefully this thing will reduce the toxic players, and hopefully these changes around the mitigations will make it so there's less incentive to cheat, and also the identification of cheaters, as well as third-party devices, is hopefully going to be a lot better in Season 3. Now don't expect any miracles, this isn't anything kind of revolutionary, but it's nice to see that they're trying to do something about it. Hopefully this gives you just a little bit of optimism. For now though, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you later.